A number of years ago, I was having a conversation with somebody in my personal life, a very intense conversation that had been going on for quite some time. And I ended up having this conversation on my cell phone. I was driving at the time, and I decided that I needed to pull into a parking lot of a strip mall. And so I pulled over, and this conversation continued for quite a while. It was this back and forth kind of contentious argument, and it was getting heated. And so at one point I decided that I needed to listen more than I was talking. And as the other person was talking, they were telling me about all of these things that they felt like I did in the relationship, and bad character traits, and how I didn't treat them fair, and the way that I talked about them was not, respectful. And as they started talking about this, I started to get, upset, and started feeling defensive, and, feeling, I guess really hurt about the whole thing. And then as they went on and kept talking, it hit me that everything that they were saying about me was a carbon copy of what I thought about them. And so after they got done talking for a couple of minutes, I debated for a moment, do I even say what's on my mind? Because what was on my mind was to ask them, what if I told you that everything that you just said about me is exactly what I've been feeling about you and what I think about you? And I ultimately decided to share that with this person, and said just exactly that. What if I told you that all of these criticisms that you have about me, all these bad feelings that you have about how I've treated you and what I've said to you and so on and so forth, is exactly how I feel about you and what I think about you, and precisely what I think is wrong with this relationship is everything that you've done to me. What if I told you that? That's what I said to the person. And so they were like, that's ridiculous. They were absolutely, incredulous that it's like that couldn't happen, because that's not who I've been. And as they said that, I'm thinking to myself, well, that's exactly how I feel when you said to me that that's what I'm doing to you. So that was a long time ago. Not that time matters, but maybe 20 years ago. And there's been a lot of time that has gone by in that relationship since, and there's just a lot of life that's happened since then. And here's the point of the story, is that in my professional life, I help people deal with conflict at work and professionally, and sometimes in their personal lives, every week. Every single week of my life, I'm getting invited in or hired in to help people resolve conflict. And in the last month, there has been no less than 6 different circumstances where I've been pulled in and there's a conflict between a couple of people. And my process in dealing with that is to talk to both parties, ask them what's going on, and then meet with them. As I don't want to say a couple, because it's a professional situation, but in 6 out of 6 of these circumstances in the last month, each party describes a relationship the identical way. I mean, they describe the same exact dynamics, and each person says that it's the other person in the relationship that's responsible for those bad dynamics. Luckily, in the last month, it's been successful resolution, because when we all get together and I share that simple fact that both people see the same issues in the relationship and they both blame the other person for those issues, in all 6 circumstances in the last month, people have seen this simple fact. And here's the, beautiful irony, or maybe it's the painful reality. Not sure which. In these circumstances, we are all contributing to the circumstances in which we're not very happy. In some cases, we're contributing in ways that are big and are significant, and we had no idea. In some cases, we're contributing a little bit, not a lot. Maybe the other person is, more responsible for the conflict or the dysfunction, but we're still bringing some of the responsibility, for what's going on. And the powerful fact is just simply this, that when we look at those tough situations, those tough relationships, and we stop looking at the other person as the one who is mostly, or in some cases we think totally responsible for why things suck between us and them, when we stop looking at them being the sole source, and we start looking at sincerely, like, what could I do differently? How can I show up differently? Are there some things that I did that I've learned from that I need to do different now, and I need to just acknowledge that fact to the other person? And if so, in some cases it's not a matter, some people have a hard time apologizing. I mean, let's face it, we all know people that say, I don't like to apologize, and I don't want to apologize, and I think we know that is just pure ego. People that are running around saying that they don't like to apologize, or they don't want to, or they don't feel the need to, they're coming from a place of ego, and that's a whole different situation. But in some cases, we don't necessarily need to say, I'm sorry I did that, because maybe we were doing the best that we knew how to do at that moment back then, but in the moment we're in right now, it's a new moment and we've learned. So even though in some cases we might not be sorry, and therefore it might not require us to say I'm sorry, maybe we need to say, I learned, or I see things differently, or I wouldn't do that the same now if it were to happen again, and here's what I would do because of what I learned from that other situation. The bottom line of all this is just simply this. In some of the most meaningful relationships in our life, we have moments. We have moments where we feel like this great relationship that we thought we had isn't really what we thought we had. We have massive doubt and maybe some insecurity, and in some cases a lot of fear that it's not what we thought it was. And maybe the other person's having that same thought at that same moment. And I would encourage us not to give into that fear, but to focus on the fact that we're contributing to that situation. And when we look at what we could do differently, when we look at the things that we've learned from in that relationship and apply those lessons immediately, we can realize that relationships are always created by two people coming together. We're going to be almost in a constant state of misunderstanding and miscommunication because that's the human condition. We can never share the same experiences with somebody and totally understand 100% of the time what the other person means or how they're going to receive some of the things that happen in the relationship. So, in other words, we should expect that they're going to have a different experience in the relationship than we are. So, in closing, those good relationships, those close relationships are going to have bumps in the road. And the fact of the matter is that when we see that as a real opportunity to first and foremost learn about ourselves and how we can be better for them, how we can be better for ourselves and be more proud of who we're becoming and how we're evolving as an individual, when we look at those tough times as opportunities, it can be moments of peace, it can be moments of gratitude, it can be moments of growth and appreciation, and not moments of fear and misunderstanding and agitation and frustration and being offended. So I hope that helps in whatever's going on, and if you ever need some help in those areas, just informally or formally, I hope you'll think of checking in. Be more than happy and love to help you out if that pops up in your life. Take care.